More often than not, humans tend to neglect one area of nutrition for whatever it is,
hmm
whether it's preference, whether it's just not on your radar.
Hi there, and a warm welcome to the Habit Nerd podcast. I'm Dr. Bree Hearn, host and general nerd about all things habits. Over my 20 plus years working as a writer, educator, researcher, keynote speaker, and coach, I've realized that habits influence everything from our health to our productivity and even our relationships. It was Aristotle, in fact, who said we become what we repeatedly do. On this podcast, you'll learn from inspiring experts as they share the habits and systems that help them live happily, healthily, and to achieve enormous success in their chosen fields. Thanks for being here. I do hope that you enjoy the episode. Hi, Habit Nerds. Welcome to today's episode. I am delighted and thrilled and privileged to have the very clever Rachelle or Rach Doss on with us today. Now, Rach has been in the health and the well-being space for over 11 years. She's a clinical nutritionist and a personal trainer, and she believes that taking daily small steps when it comes to eating well and moving our bodies makes a difference in our health and our well-being. With a special interest in mental health, Rach believes that empowerment through education about our bodies and our minds is key for helping everyone to find their own balance through sustainable and achievable habits. Creator of the Healthy Not Hungry podcast, of which I'm a big fan, Rach aims to change the mindset of how we view being healthy by replacing the impossible expectations and standards that we put on ourselves with more achievable and sustainable ones. Habit nerds, you can see why I'm so excited to have engaged Rach in this conversation today. She's exactly what we need to hear. She's exactly the expert that we've all been looking for, and she talks about habits, so that's a huge win for us and our audience as well. So welcome, Rach, and thank you so much for making the time for us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. What a great intro. I feel nice and special after that.
Good. You've got a glow on the screen. All right, Rach, I start
Perfect.
with the same question with all of my guests, and that is, what is a habit that is serving you at the moment that's helping you show up as the person that you'd like to be?
A habit that's serving me at the moment would be to not forget about the power of small things. So at the moment, my big one is exercise. I
hmm
really, in my schedule, as much as it's my career, I don't really have the time to do big exercise sessions at the moment. So 10
hmm
minutes of exercises is my habit at the moment. And I think it's amazing because it really can make a difference.
Mm. Amazing. That, certainly, resonates with, we were having a chat just before we started recording, but certainly something that I come back to as a reminder for myself all the time, that just that idea of incremental small changes, that idea of atomizing something really small, 5 minutes a day is better than nothing, and that 5 minutes a day compounds over time. So I think that's a really realistic view of fitting exercise into a busy life. Rach, we know that habits become automatic when there's a system in place. So what supports you to get that bit of exercise in every day?
I am a big list keeper, so I
Mm-hmm.
have a notebook and I'm always writing to-do lists, and that is something I usually do before bed because I find it clears my brain and I can sleep. But I will
Mm,
add that into one of my to-dos that has to be done, and I literally will write 10 minutes of exercise or
mm-hmm.
10-minute dog walk. So I know that the expectation's small, and I try and have not a massive to-do list, but just an amount that I know I will get done. That's probably what
Mm.
keeps me on track.
Yeah, that resonates with me. I do the same thing. Do you have a little checkbox next to it where you tick it off, or do you cross it out so that you get that dopamine hit, that little mini celebration?
I do tick it off, which is my favorite thing to do.
I love that it's almost like an appointment with yourself, as if it's a meeting or as if it's something that you need to do for work, because if it's written down, I wonder whether you're motivated by getting to the end of the day, and if there's ever a day where that doesn't get done, just checking in with yourself and how that doesn't feel great if you haven't honored your to-do list, your wishes for that day with that 10 minutes of exercise.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like you said, viewing it like you would view work. And I think that's been a big mindset shift for me over the years is, you have your obligations and your priorities, and to me, I've tried to make self-care ones for me part of that,
Mm,
which can be tough. And like you said, there's days you don't do it and you're like, oh, I wish I did. So I try
mm.
really hard to have minimal of those days, unless, of course, my body is telling me otherwise. But if I know it's not, I really try and be like, no, this is just as important as everything else on that day.
Mm. And thank you for putting the caveat, to empower yourself that if your body doesn't feel up to the 10 minutes, that's okay as well.
Yeah.
Do you ever find, Rach, that 10 minutes, if you do have the time in the day, turns into 15 or 20 minutes once you've started?
Yeah, definitely. When you get in the flow of something like that state of flow, I find it's quite easy to continue given that you have the time. Sometimes I honestly don't have the time and I might be
Mm,
hitting the flow and I'm like, I gotta stop. But if the
mm,
time is there, a lot of the time I do think we can actually stay longer than that little amount
mm.
we've given ourselves.
I think it's a really great message, and it's something that, I've grappled with over not just exercise. Sometimes something might feel overwhelming with work, for example. And the probably the best mindset shift is exactly the one that you've articulated, that just start, just give it 10 minutes or give it one line, or if it's go for a walk, it's just put your sneakers on and do up the laces, because even though we know we're playing a trick on ourselves, often once we start walking or we start exercising, where the block has moved, the clouds have shifted, and then you think, do you know what? I'm here now. I might as well do 20 minutes if you've got it, the time, as you say. But the hurdle at the start of it is often the hardest thing to get over, isn't it?
Definitely the starting point is the hardest. I had a business coach years ago. They had this terminology that they said, eat the frog. So
Mm,
essentially that means do the thing you least want to do to get
mm.
it out of the way because anything after that feels much better to do, right?
It's funny you say that actually. I've been thinking a lot. Something I coach people on and speak a little bit about is productivity. And one of the, eat the frog is a big phrase in the productivity world, because it's basically,
Yeah.
you've got a whole list of to do things, and the one you really don't want to do is the one that is the frog, and you should get it out of the way at the start. But I always really encourage people to find what works for them. And isn't it funny? I know exactly what you mean by eat the frog, but I actually hate the phrase eat the frog. And so I just think eating a frog just sounds like the worst possible thing you could do. And I understand, but I would like to reframe it to something else, because even after I've eaten the frog, I don't think I'd feel good. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I
Oh,
understand the
yeah.
sentiment, but I need to reframe it with a different set of language.
It's funny because I don't love the phrase either, and yet out of all the years of all the things I've been told, it's been one of the most prominent things to stick. And I think it's
It's
because it's
stuck.
such a weird sounding thing.
I think you're exactly right. Yeah, that is exactly, you're on the money there. And so maybe that is its purpose. Now, Rach, is there a habit that you currently have that isn't aligned with the person that you're aiming to be?
Yeah, I think, look, I'll be honest with you, there's always multiple habits. And I think it's sometimes being honest enough with yourself to realize if it's a habit that should change, or maybe you need to change the expectation to have better habits to
Mm.
suit. Does that make sense? So
It makes a lot of
I
sense.
would,
Can you help us
yeah,
unpack that?
I'll explain a bit more. Yeah. So I would love to be someone that gets up at 5 a.m.
Uh-huh.
and gets my exercise in at the start, or maybe some me
Uh-huh.
time or some journaling before my daughter wakes up, before the day goes on.
Yes.
However, I am really not wired that way. Like, as in,
Mm-hmm.
I can do it if I have to. I
Mm.
feel a lot better when I wake up by myself at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my sleep-in habits don't align with what I would like to be. In saying that, I've come to a point recently where I've realized that when I take that pressure off and I just agree to start the day when my body wants to, it's a happier household and things actually flow a
Mm.
lot better. So I've tried to take away that expectation from that particular habit and instead put the habit into, like I said, that 10 minutes exercise later in the day instead.
Mm.
But I guess, yeah, for me, sleeping habits has been a big one that I've constantly struggled with over the years because I have had
Mm.
expectations, but the reality maybe doesn't match up.
Yeah, I think what a kind and self-compassionate way to look at that for yourself. I think, again, sweeping generalizations, often they're from, middle-aged white male executives who say things like get up at 5 a.m. everybody does have the same 24 hours in a day, but not everybody has the same control over every hour in their day. And if you are up with your little girl overnight, or you decided to stay up late the night before, to get some you time at the other end of the day, or whatever it is, then you should never, and anybody should never feel like a failure for not getting up at 5 a.m. or even 6 a.m. And if you
Mm.
have reframed that expectation on yourself, that actually a 6:30 wake up, if that works for you and your family and your body, and that actually pays positive dividends throughout the day, then actually your habit could be waking up without the alarm. The habit could be
Yeah.
letting my body wake up when it's ready. Yeah, so I
Yeah,
love it. You've
exactly.
reframed your expectations.
But yeah, I think it's almost like changing the habit. So being, like you said, my habit would have been the expectation was here, but instead I'm like, no, my habit is going to be a bit more realistic to the season of life I'm in and how I can thrive.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. And I hope our listeners really take that message and apply it to wherever they feel less than, in inverted commas, and reframe the expectation to what is achievable, because we're always going to be able to do what's achievable. We're never going to
Yeah.
get what is outside of the way our body works, or the way our, current family situation or work situation would support us to be. So yeah, achievable. And also, it's just a matter of reframing the time of day that you engage in the habit, or, make it a much smaller version of it for now. So, yeah, they're all really powerful reminders. Now, Rach, I got you on because of your expertise around nutrition and around exercise. So, the science shows us that the habits are the silent architects of our lives. You, being a nutritionist, a nutrition coach, and a personal trainer, what is your overarching message to your clients around making nutrition habits start and stay put as much as they possibly can in a busy life?
So I'm going to start with pretty well what I just said with the expectation part is the
Mm-hmm.
most important place to begin here for helping clients, like you said, start some great habits around eating and exercise, be able to maintain them and keep them because it's like, you see people who do like fitness competition prep, right? Most of their meals is like boiled chicken and greens.
Broccoli. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And yes, that will get you results quickly. Is it sustainable long term? No. Is it always doable? No.
Mm,
Is it enjoyable? For most people, no. I mean, some people,
mm,
yes. But I think it's being realistic about where you're at to begin with and what is doable for you at
mm-hmm,
that time is
mm-hmm,
really a really important place to begin with here because
mm-hmm,
even like for example it'd be lovely to eat poached eggs and smashed avo on toast every morning, but maybe with your schedule, that's not going to work. But maybe getting a really solid granola bar in on the drive to drop the kids off at school, maybe that works for you.
mm-hmm. And maybe the avocado's too expensive, or, maybe you don't.
100%.
Like in my current, suburb at the moment, and I'm sure it's the same, eggs are really hard to come by. So,
Oh, yeah.
what is, what would get you that protein hit if that's what it is that you're looking for in a way that is more achievable?
Definitely. So I think it's being firstly honest with yourself of where you're at, what's doable and what's not. And then it's about ticking boxes, just like with our to-do list of, these are my non-negotiables of what I've got to get done. I think we can do the same with how we nourish our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Yes.
sorry, you go.
No, I'd love to hear a little bit more. So the first thing is, you've said make it achievable and make it realistic and make it something that you're going to be able to sustain, because, it needs to be something that you like to nourish your body with so that it's going to continue. What
Yeah.
about if you're somebody like me and you need to eat more vegetables? It's something that you could do with more in your diet for a variety of reasons, and you're struggling for whatever reason to embed that habit and to make it an ongoing, almost automatic habit, in the way that, eating something else in your diet has come automatically and vegetables isn't just yet. This is the case for me. What might you help me with? How might you support me?
Okay, so there's two ways you could go about this depending on the type of person you are and how receptive you are to this. If
Okay.
you are someone who really dislikes eating vegetables, so it's it's a preference problem to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
I would maybe look at implementing like a cold pressed juice that has hidden veggies in it and still tastes delicious, or
Okay.
perhaps a supplement like a greens booster to
Mm-hmm.
try and get that in while you're slowly working on increasing vegetables as eating, if that makes sense, so that you're
Mm-hmm.
still getting the nourishment, but you're not putting so much pressure on yourself to implement those vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way you could go about it. On
Yes,
the
I
other
like that
end,
one.
though, as I said, like a checklist, right? So, one thing that
Mm.
I get clients to do is look at their whole day of what they're eating and their meals. And, there's things that we need. So, making sure that we've got a good source of protein in every meal. Are we getting some good sources of fats? One of the things I do like to implement is 2 fruit and 5 veg. But
Mm-hmm.
to start with, 5 veg could be very overwhelming. So maybe we're going to start with 2 veg. And then
Mm-hmm.
once we kind of nail that, we can look at, okay, well, how can we implement more? And then I guess the implementing of the vegetables is what works for you. Like maybe cutting up veg, or like you find fresh veg go off. Maybe having the microwave packs of the frozen steamed veg. Maybe that works for you. And there is nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with that, because at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, you're still getting those vegetables in. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's grating it up and putting it in your bolognese sauce so that you're not
Mm-hmm.
really thinking about it. But it's
Mm-hmm.
implementing a habit of vegetables as well, is probably the best way of putting it. But it's
Mm.
working once again within you and your preferences of how you can best do that.
Mm. I love both of those approaches, Rach. I am going to, I mean, you would understand this as a coach. Clients, if I'm your client, I will raise objections. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want your expertise. I want you to tell me where to next if, if this is possible. Greens
Yeah,
powder, I hate the taste of.
fair.
I have tried a few different types. Um, love the idea. I hate the taste of it. I'm yet to find one that I can hide from myself in
Yeah,
other smoothie ingredients, for example. So um, I think I've bought a few different types. I think I've allowed them to sit in the cupboard after maybe a week and a half of that habit and realized that it's something that I struggle to maintain. And the other side of the other approach, my challenge is I don't think I like the taste of vegetables enough. And I think another barrier is I don't know enough recipes that would incorporate vegetables in a way that I would like the taste of them. So there's a
yeah,
cognitive barrier there for me to cook in past, I will be very happy to eat some chopped up raw vegetables as a snack. I'm very happy to, put it in the bolognese sauce. I do that for my kids every week. I would like to eat vegetables every single day, and it's not
yeah.
necessarily happening yet. So forget about the greens powder. I think that is my problem because that's a taste issue but maybe the other one, what could you help me with if I'm struggling to fit vegetables in every day in a way that I like the taste of?
Yeah, of course. So I think there's a lot of exploring here, right? So it'd be having a conversation, and I'm sure that there are some vegetables that you like the taste of more than
Mm-hmm.
others, or
Yes.
maybe there's certain ways that you like them cooked. So I think the
Mm.
biggest thing would be creating a list and identifying the vegetables that you actually do like and how
Mm-hmm.
you like them, because it's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more enticing to be able to add those into your meals. So an example for
Mm.
you, my daughter doesn't really like greens too much. She loves edamame beans,
Mm.
which are a vegetable very high in protein. So
Mm.
we've started having edamame beans as a side in one of our meals, which she loves. She laps them up. She's ticking boxes. She's getting the vegetables in. And with my daughter, because she is a very fussy eater, we actually have a list basically of vegetables that she'll eat and how she'll eat them. And I look at most of our meals and see how can I add even one or two of those in to make sure that we're getting them.
Oh, I love that. How do you cook the edamame, or do you not? Do you eat them raw?
We just buy the frozen ones. We actually got a bulk pack of them from Costco, but you can like either steam them or put them in the microwave and off you go. They just taste like sushi train.
I love that idea. I really love the idea of making a list, and I find that quite empowering actually, that I'd be able to make the choice there of how I like it and then, be able to embed them. It's actually, I'm going to steal that idea from my kids who are both school aged, and we struggle with school lunches a little bit.
Yeah.
They're a little bit fussy around not liking bread. They don't like sandwiches or rolls or wraps. So, it can get to the end of the 5 day week and we're really struggling with options. So, and it's not, I don't altogether blame them, because I'm saying to them, well, what else would you eat? And they're saying, I don't know. So I think I really like that idea that I could sit down with both of my girls and make a list of the foods that they do like to eat, and then maybe we could brainstorm in what forms could we, create those foods, and they would feel some autonomy and some agency and some empowerment over that. But also it would be a great idea to be able to just brainstorm and flesh out some more ideas for all of us.
Definitely. And I think, as human beings, we all like to have choices. And when you put someone on the spot to make a choice straight up off the bat with no options available, it's pretty tough. Whereas when you're in
Mm,
a good mindset to write down all these options, and then you might be able to say to yourself for dinner or your daughters, okay, I know that we've got five different options. Let's pick two. And
mm,
they're options that you like, firstly. So you're not trying to talk yourself into getting out of your comfort zone here either. But you also know that they're good options and that they're going to work for you with
mm.
everything else, in mind.
Are you smart, capable, and secretly exhausted? You are not alone. If you're a woman who's done everything right but still feels like you're running on empty, it's time to stop surviving and to start choosing. I'm Bree, the habit nerd. I coach women who are done with hustle culture and don't need another planner. They need a better way to work and to live. As an academic at Australia's #1 university, I bring trusted, research-backed tools to your real everyday challenges. As a busy mum myself, my 4-part coaching system matches proven science to your point of need, so you can create habits that last and invest your time and energy where it matters most. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing what is right for you. I will help you feel proud of how you show up at work and at home, for yourself and for the people that you love. If you're ready to feel focused, fulfilled, and in control without burning out, let's talk. Head over to the Habit Nerd on Instagram, where you'll find my calendar. Book a meeting and let's get a conversation started. Yeah, I love that idea. And also, just to reference something you said earlier that I really liked and I didn't, articulate, was having almost a checklist of the types of nourishment that you really should and could have throughout the day. So sources of good fats and protein, and where your greens are, and good grains, for example. That's I think that would be really supportive of things like variety, gut health, eating different colors and shades of foods, and also just not becoming bored of things.
Yeah. I mean, look, more often than not, humans tend to neglect one area of nutrition for whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's preference, whether it's just not on your radar. So that's why with clients, I do the checklist because it's creating an awareness of what your body
Mm,
actually requires to be balanced and healthy. And it's creating that awareness of, okay, I'm eating this. I know for myself, if I'm craving really sugary things or I'm feeling a bit yuck in the afternoon, I
mm-hmm.
probably haven't eaten enough protein. And,
Mm,
even mentally, I'll go through my list and be like, I don't feel great. What have I eaten today? What haven't I had? And then I will try and
mm.
have more of what I've neglected. And usually it fixes the problem.
Oh, that's so interesting. So there's a sense of curiosity there that, do you find that that works? Do you find, because I would feel, the 3 o'clock slump, and I would probably reach for a piece of chocolate, to have
Yeah.
with a cup of tea. But do you find that that sense of curiosity does make you think, oh, that's what I'm missing, so therefore I'll put that in and see if that fixes the problem?
For me, it 100% does, but it's also my job. So, I think I have that added awareness constantly on my brain. But for
Mm,
someone, that's why the list is great because for someone who's trying to gain that awareness, I think it's very helpful. But I can honestly say it is a protein problem. usually I will go and cook up some eggs or just whatever I might have on hand, even a
Hmm.
protein water. And I usually find within half an hour, it's fixed my problem.
Oh, wow. And I know it is your job, but having you on the podcast makes that knowledge accessible for us. So that's a real
Yep.
gift. So, that's certainly, I love this podcast. I just never know what guests are going to teach us. I love that idea that we could, if nothing else, walk away with a sense of curiosity when we're not feeling our best selves, when we're not feeling optimum, and then be able to think, what have I put in my body today, or what have I not put in my body today? Just as a question to get curious about in the very first instance, even if it's not about the answer to that question, asking the question, I'm sure, will have huge power.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would find that even just being able to, like you said, have that curiosity and ask that, we could fix a lot of people's afternoon slumps alone, just
Mm,
from having that curiosity and thought.
Oh, this is very good. Rach, what do your most successful clients have in common? And what can we learn from them? The ones who do really well.
So I actually deep dove into this a couple of years back because I was looking at a lot of my clients and I'm like, what is the difference between the ones that stick to it long term, get the results compared to the others? And a big thing that it comes down to is self-esteem and self-worth, which I don't know
Mm.
if you're expecting me to say that, but it's what I found. So I find that people who feel that they are deserving and worthy of looking after themselves are more likely to put that time and energy into looking after themselves. So, a big part of my role is not necessarily just telling them what to eat and how to exercise, but I will help boost someone up so that they realize they're worthy, they're important, they have great gifts and talents, and how can we make them realize that so that they will look after themselves to be able to share that around?
Oh, wow, that's such a beautiful answer. So, the ones who come to you in the first place and they're not in a great state in terms of their own um, viewpoint of themselves in their own eating and their exercise or lack thereof, can you generally drill down that there is a problem with the way they view themselves and the way they feel or don't feel worthy enough for improvement?
Yeah, like I think a lot of the time you can look at someone's why. Why are they coming for my services and why are they wanting to lose weight or change their appearance? Or, when you're looking at the why of someone, a lot of the time, if you get a superficial answer, usually that tells me that there's a lot more going on underneath that we need to
Mm,
uncover. Because
mm,
the thing is, if you're not happy with your internal, no matter what you do to your external, you could lose all the weight, be the most toned, aesthetically pleasing person you've ever seen.
mm.
But if you don't feel right in your inside, it's never going to be enough.
Oh goodness. And that is, we see that over and over, don't we? We see that when we come
Yeah.
across people who, in our eyes, could not be more beautiful as we would,
Yeah.
traditionally say, and yet they have got huge issues in terms of the way they view themselves and the efficacy that they see themselves or the worthiness. I think that's such a beautiful analogy. So, almost like a house, that foundation needs to be there. You need to have that strength of self worth before you can worry about, you know, putting on the paint and the curtains and the bricks on the outside. The foundations need to be strong enough. And then if the foundations are strong enough, I would imagine that's where improvement happens and sticks.
Well, yeah, that's where you're going to get consistency because you've got people who are willing to day after day show up for themselves because they believe that they're worth it, is really where it comes from.
It reminds me of one of the barriers to behavior change we know is motivation. And what that means is if you're motivated, say, to lose some weight because your doctor says you need to lose weight, you're at risk of type 2 diabetes, for example, and, there's a cholesterol issue here, or your partner says you've really been stacking on the kilos lately, that's very different motivation to I want to feel better in my clothes or I want to look at myself with pride in the mirror. So the motivation there is, I would imagine, if you're not feeling great about yourself because of what your partner said or because your doctor has said you need to get yourself into shape, but it's not coming from a deep place of identity and worthiness for you, you might be less likely to give it a go for somebody else's sake, but then fall off the wagon, as opposed to if you're doing it for you and it's something that is part of your core identity.
Definitely. And I think also helping people to establish a why. Is it important to look after yourself? Because at
Mm,
the end of the day, you can find a reason for everyone to improve their health. And I
mm,
honestly believe that no matter who you are, there is something that it could help you show up better with that you would value.
mm. Yeah, so is part of your coaching asking those good questions and getting people to drill right down
Yeah,
first? Mm,
look, I once upon a time, if someone came up to me and said, I want to lose all this weight and grow a booty, I would have been like, excellent, let's go.
done.
And I am still so happy to help someone do that, but I want to make sure we're doing it for the right reasons and that it
Mm,
is because they're proud of themselves. And, you know, there is nothing wrong with liking how you look and taking pride in your appearance and your fitness. Nothing wrong with that at all. But it's understanding there's more to it. So something that I ask everyone is, can you tell me 3 things you like about yourself that are not looks related? And that's
mm,
straight away where you can see. I had some clients I asked, it took them nearly an hour session to be able to give me one answer. Like, and that's
wow.
very common. It puts people off guard a lot.
Mm, mm,
But that's really a great starting point with someone because you can really establish how they value and feel about themselves from the get go.
mm. Oh, your clients are very lucky, Rach. In
Thank
this
you.
really, really busy life, is there a final message that you would like to leave our nerd audience with to help them live a healthy, not hungry, remarkable life?
Look, I think at the end of the day, life is really short and it's about putting your big values first. So, health and well being are a big value for me. In saying that, relationships and time with the people I care about and making memories definitely goes on top of that. And it's so
Mm,
while it's great to get in the exercises and eat the healthy food, if there's a core memory I can make with my daughter by sharing an ice cream instead of doing those things, I'm probably going to do it. And I really
mm,
think that would be my message is that life is short. So, yes, do the healthy things and be consistent, but don't miss out on life in the process.
mm. And is that part of the naming of your podcast, Healthy Not Hungry? Are you conceptualizing healthy there as healthy relationships, healthy, life, healthy overview of, as you say, we're here for a short time?
Yeah, definitely. Like my pillars of health is never just, physical health. Like it's a great part of
Mm,
it, but like mental, emotional relationships are such a big part. And I guess for me, I don't feel it's worth starving yourself to go hungry or feel
mm,
hungry maybe in a relationship sense or in a time sense or an energy sense for what you think might be something else, you know?
mm. Oh, I think that's so powerful. And, as a language nerd like me, I really appreciate you fleshing that out. Sometimes you just ask someone the right question at the right time. And that's exactly what I think all of our listeners, and certainly myself as a listener of you, needs to remember is that nobody sits on their rocking chair at 85 in the nursing home and wishes that on Thursday, May the 15th, they spent 15 minutes longer at the gym than they did. It's going to be about how we feel about ourselves, the memories we've created, with our families, did we do work that we love? Did we, go on holidays with people that we love? Did we, enjoy our lives? So I think that's a lovely frame to put over all of this. But I think just to go back to one of your earlier points is your life will improve when you have a good sense of health and well-being because you will sleep better, you will feel the dopamine hit and the endorphins after exercise. You will be a better partner, a better mother, a better friend if you are well in yourself.
Definitely. Like health is a tool and a vessel to be able to do the things
Mm,
that matter, is the way I see
mm,
it.
amazing. So in that case, really, there'd be nothing more important. There'd be nothing more important than putting your attention there. And how could you not think that you're worthy if it is, even if not for yourself, for the people around you that you love that want the best version of you around?
Yeah, exactly right.
Oh, that's so inspiring. Rach, where can my audience connect with you? How can they gain more from your excellent work? How can they work with you if they want to?
Probably the easiest way is Instagram. So I'm at Healthy Not Hungry Podcast, or we have a
Mhm.
Facebook group called Healthy Not Hungry as well. But that's probably the easiest way because there's email links and the rest of it to get in touch.
Great. I think I'm going to get in touch with you and ask for your list of, or, at least for you to direct me somewhere where I can do that as at least the starting point so that I can flesh out, what I would like to be able to include in a day. And even if it's front of mind when I'm shopping and meal prepping and planning, I think that would be a really great kind of achievable small action that I'll take after learning from you today. So a huge thanks, Rach, for your time and all of your expertise. I know there was so many nuggets of gold in there that our audience are going to gain from. So a huge thank you for your generosity of knowledge today.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Habit Nerd. I hope you found some new inspiration, learned something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you did enjoy the episode, I would be really grateful if you could please leave a 5-star review, as it helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it should only take you 5 seconds. If you're keen for more tips and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow Habit Nerd.